Good morning to viewers across the world. Welcome to your poetic interlude on the weekend show. My name is Emeka Ozurumba, and it's so lovely to be here discussing my book with you, Autumnal Dust. Well, I have two pieces to recite for you from this book, Autumnal Dust. The first is titled Jocose Bees. Sometimes in all our productivity as humans, we are still less productive than the bees, as we cannot make our society as sweet as bees make honey. And though humans seem as higher creatures than bees, bees are the creatures with the foremost thought of industrialism. Bees spend most of their time making honey and they are never starved. Imagine the human community that live in poverty and imagine the bees always living in abundance. I looked at the estate of men in anguish and I considered the bees and how industrious they are and how less productive the race of man has become. I was astonished as to why animals with no medulla oblongata can construct for themselves an ever-sure mechanism to eradicate hunger amongst themselves, and how humans can't comprehend how to make everyone on earth live in abundance and wealth. Are we now lower animals than the bees? Are we now in a psychosis, in a prerequisite away from order? There's another peculiarity about bees. Honey, when fermented, can make you drunk. So bees protect each other from the lust for drunkenness. In the human society, political power can make you drunk, but where are our equity of equations? The bees protect themselves from themselves. When a bee becomes drunk, he's chased away from the hive till he regains his normalcy. And if bees have among themselves delegated legislatures and separation of power, why can't we also have human leadership potent than that of the bees? Little creatures as these have among themselves equity to the highest divisibles, commemorating democratic judicatures. Yet we can't have an economy that can tackle all our problems. We can't have a criteria called equality shared amongst ourselves. And yet many humans in our society are drunk on power, and there is no restraint. Everyone is allowed to get drunk on power as they so desire. Where are the deterrents based on democratic ambits? Where are the modalities that are to regulate our society? What has happened to the effectualism of our constitution? When will the human society be as productive as the bees? When will we taste the meat of true leadership and liberty? Liberty to develop our nation, liberty to safeguard our democracy. I see that there is a lot we can learn from the society of the bees. We can learn how to make our society self-sufficient. My next piece is titled, Burying Human Rights Alive. Democracy is dead when the institutions of human rights are not functional or deprivational. Democracy is dead when the institutions of justice are buried alive, like horsemen that perish with kings as eternal slaves. And that role to be buried alive alongside the dead, is it not for barbarians? Their views to rekindle to utmost barbarity. Human rights are buried alive where there is no rule of law, where the law becomes a forceful imposition, where the basic necessities of humanity are uncatered for, where government becomes the impediment to justice, where the trial times are for the austerity of hopelessness, more hopeless the joint for the accordance of a fricating constitution that has no survey for citizenry inclusion. Illegalities are kept where tyranny is residual, where fallacy is applauded in plaudits, where democracy is concealed, where equity is mismanaged. The fruit of all these deeds leads to impoverishing a nation and wedging it in mass poverty. And one might ask, how does human rights concern poverty? It does, because only the rich can buy human rights. Human rights violations are the greatest evil exacerbated in the archive of the analogous. It's only deceitful monopoly that one sect has freedom of rights as they choose, while the poor are helpless and repressed. This was juvenile judiciary. This was illegal legislatures. The state of the lack of obeisance to the rule of law are a corrosive conjunction, irretrievable and irreparable, and a misdeed without the thought of purposeful procreation. Some allege there is still a molecule of human rights to savour. There's nothing unknown of their familiarity, a concoction of government brutality, of economic abnormality, of insecure authorizations, of ineffectual policies. These are just the periphery discounts and not the gruesome. The funeral of justice wakes the apparition of injustice. Elasticity maimed of its breaking points or yielding resorts. My lovely viewers all across the world, this poem tells us about burning human rights alive. I mean, in a society where there's lack of obeisance to the rule of law, where there's lack of effectuation of good policies to, make humans live in good economic well-being, we still have the death of human rights in such instances. my viewers all across the world. Don't go anywhere and stay tuned because we have the political segment coming up for you on The Weekend Show.